us for this episode of Curious Careers. My name is David, and our Anna is going to be joining us today for this episode of Curious Careers. Anna is the head of trade finance at AIG and is former Barclays. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks, David, for the invitation and this opportunity. I'm very happy to be here and yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. So we'll start with some background questions. Would you be able to give us a little introduction to yourself and your career?
Yes, of course. So, well, I started my career with the Inter-American Development Bank based in Colombia. I don't know if all of you are familiar with IDB, but it is one of the largest multilateral agencies, which mandate is basically to support the development of emerging markets. And IDB specifically a mandate is related to Latin America. So I started working for the private sector at IDB as a financial analyst, and then my role evolved over time. My last role with IDB was as a portfolio officer manager. Basically, I was overseeing the investment, some of the investments that IDB have made in the region from credit point of view, credit risk point of view, but also from a commercial point of view. Once the transaction was originated and executed, that was transferred to my team, and those investments tend to be medium or long term. So that requires a close overseas of the portfolios. After the IDB, I decided to, well, I forgot to mention that also when I started in Colombia, but I moved to Washington DC also with IDB. And while I was in DC, I also attended my MBA part-time. So I was working and doing my MBA simultaneously. And after I finished my MBA, I decided that was a time for me to move on. And I moved to London, and I started working for Barclays, where I spent 7 years at Barclays, and I had the opportunity to also do several roles there. My first job was as a VP covering the Latin American portfolio. I was hired to build this portfolio in Latin America. My clients were financial institutions at the point of time, and I was covering them from a trade and working capital perspective. Then my role evolved over time, but I ended up being the global coordinator and UK head for financial institution group trade and working capital origination team. So my team was covering banks and BFIs as well. And BFIs being non-banking financial institution, also from a trade and working capital perspective. And then after 7 years at Barclays, I made a difficult decision to move on. I found this opportunity at AIG very interesting. And I'm now, as you said at the beginning, I'm the global head of trade finance for AIG, also based in London. I've been here in this role for almost 5 months now. So from what my team does is very similar to my previous role in terms of the underlying risk is very similar, but I'm now on the insurance side, so offering a different type of product.
Nice, perfect. And can you give us a little bit of a breakdown of what is trade finance and why would firms use it? How does it add value to a firm?
Yes, of course. Well, the trade finance is what I like the most about trade finance is that it's linked to the real economy. So most of the companies that you can think about are using trade finance for their exports or import type of business. Basically, there are two reasons why companies use trade finance. And one is because they need to mitigate the risk of trading with counterparts, especially abroad, either because they don't trust them or because they don't know them well, so they cannot take risks on them directly. So they normally go through a financial institution for them to issue certain instruments that help them to mitigate the risk. But the other reason why companies use trade finance is because they need to optimize their working capital. So trade finance is also a way to achieve this. And that's basically what is trade finance very broadly. So right now, so trade finance in AIG is part of credit lines. Credit lines is basically everything that has a credit risk associated to it. We have 3 business lines, and trade finance is just one of them. The other one is trade credit, where the clients are mainly corporates. In my case, clients are mainly financial institutions, but also corporates sometimes as well. And there's a third line that is political risk and structured credit, so everything that has a sovereign or long-term type of financing associated to it. So in trade finance within AIG, what I'm doing is helping these financial institutions to optimize their capital, because every time that they lend or they take risks on certain counterparts, they have to allocate certain capital to this. But they need to also meet certain internal returns hurdles, and they also need to be efficient with the capital that they allocate to this type of transactions. So what I'm doing is to provide them, these financial institutions, with credit insurance. That's one of the instruments or type of solution that help them to optimize that capital. So basically, we are assessing that underlying transaction, that export-import transaction, that is structured transaction that is happening, normally also linked to receivables of corporates. So in this way, as the banks are using the credit insurance, they are also able to provide more support, increase their capacity on their existing clients as well.
Excellent, thank you. That was really useful, because sometimes people don't understand what trade finance actually means. So that's great to kind of learn about that. You've been in financial services throughout your whole career. What was the key driving factor for you to enter that marketplace?
Yes, no, of course. So my bachelor actually is in I'm an industrial engineer by background. But since I was at university, I decided to go through the finance path. And I took several courses that helped me to be able to enter into the finance world. Actually, in Colombia, that's very common. And I'm sure that in other countries as well, that you find engineers that ended up in finance. So I was really interested on numbers analysis, credit analysis, financial analysis, and I think finance contains everything that I was looking for, and also without the finance available, corporates cannot really operate, or large corporates. So I think that was also a link to the fact that I was able to support the real economy in some way. So I think that was one of the things that attracted me the most about the finance industry.
Excellent, great. So important of how finance actually supports the whole economy. That's excellent. You have an MBA. I work a lot with the MBAs. That you managed to do your MBA while working. How important was your MBA in advancing your career?
Yeah, no, I think it was really important. Actually, one of the reasons, first of all, that I decided to take the MBA is because in the first organization that I worked with, in order to advance in my career, I needed a master or another. But that was not the only reason. I think it was also, I think one of the main benefit of the MBA that I learned was to, like, you learn how to apply concepts to real life problems, and I think the MBA give you that type of skill. Also, the access that you have to practitioners and being in those courses, I think is key. And also the networking. The networking is essential for everyone. And the MBA, of course, apart from the credential that give you, it's also give you that networking that is going to stay with you for life. And that's very important.
Excellent. I love that you mentioned networking. Here at Bays, all our MBAs have the opportunities to do multiple networking events, and it's so important. So it's really great that you found that beneficial for your MBA as well. Um, would you have a lot of people who are going to be watching this, listening to this, is at Bays or maybe at other schools? What advice would you give those MBAs who are currently going through their course? Any bits of wisdom you'd wish you knew when you were doing your MBA?
Yes, no, as I said, networking. So make use of all the opportunities that you have during your MBA in order to network. Um, Build those relationships. I think that's going to be key. Also, build those relationships with your teachers and with your colleagues as well. A lot of them, or a lot of your colleagues are going to be ending up working in your same industry. And that's going to help you to succeed in your life. And also you're going to learn so much from them, from their experiences in different companies. So I think that's very important. Also, you have to be grateful that, first of all, that you had this opportunity to complete an MBA. Not everyone has that opportunity. So you need to acknowledge that you are in an advantageous position. So you have to make, you have to be really careful with that. When I say that, is like you also need to be humble. So don't think that because you have an MBA, you know all the answers. So yes, I think also you need to learn how to be humble and just say I don't know when you don't know the answer to all your questions. Yeah.
Excellent. Great advice. Great advice. A little bit about AIG now. AIG is a massive global brand. It's one my students constantly talk about and they're interested in joining. Can you tell us a little bit about AIG and some of the activities that you're involved in?
Yes, of course. Well, AIG is a massive organization, as you know. It is an insurance company. Insurance as an industry, I think, is not that well known or understood by, especially by students. Is not like the first option that they have, but I really invite you to explore in more detail because it's a very interesting industry. In insurance, it's like trade finance is required for in order for the real economy to function correctly, and it helps to mitigate risk from corporate, but also from your own. So on a personal level as well, I'm pretty sure you'll buy some type of insurance, but also apart from the person, and that's probably the area of the industry that is better known because that's what we use the most. But corporates and different type of institutions also use insurance for their own purposes. But the main purpose is basically mitigate risk. In the case of, for example, financial institution is sometimes also to relieve capital, reduce risk-weighted assets, and improve their returns as well. So insurance. So how insurance company make money is they make money in two ways. One is, of course, they offer insurance products and they collect premiums. That's basically cash that they only if something goes wrong, they're gonna pay that claim. But how they manage that that cash is also a core part of what the insurance industry does, and it's on the investment side. So the insurance company need to manage those investments carefully, and they invest in different type of products in order to gain a return on those. So they are like two different parts of the business. One is the investment side, the other one is the underwriting side. And the underwriting side, which is basically the one that is the areas that are underwriting risk that could go from credit lines as the area that I'm but also property, casualty, aerospace, marine, etc. So it's very broad. All of these areas also get support from very important functions like actuarial, also claims areas, IT, reinsurance is also a big part of the industry. Basically, how one of the foundation of the insurance industry is diversification and distribution of risk. So insurance companies also use reinsurance. So they use another insurance company to reassure the risk that we are underwriting. And basically that is about distribution and sharing that risk across the industry. So there are many areas that someone from an MBA could be interested in exploring in more detail. And I also invite you, there are several positions open at organization level. So I invite you all to look at the career side and see the different options that are available.
Excellent, thank you. And what kind of skills do you think someone would need to develop while they're doing, for example, that would make them to maybe a trade finance career or a broader career at AIG?
I think analytical skills for sure. That's a must. You need to be able to analyze financial statements, but also you need to understand the business cycle of the particular company or risk that you are underwriting. You need to understand the different economic cycles, but at the same time you also need to have a commercial approach because you are negotiating things with people. So building those client relationships are very important. So someone that is able to manage client relationship, but also different stakeholders, because you are not gonna work in isolation. You need a team behind you. You need a team that supports you. So it's very important, especially in these large organizations, to help to understand how to navigate the system and how to work with many stakeholders at the same time.
Excellent. I'm really glad you mentioned teamwork there, because that's one thing our MBAs spend a lot of time doing. They work, and they often ask me about cultures at companies. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about what's the culture like at AIG?
Yes, well, I only have been here 5 months, but I can tell you that it is a very inclusive environment. It's a very diverse environment. Just to tell you something, for example, in my team, more or less half of my team are women. Some of them are international, and I think in the past, or still right now, the insurance industry is very British male dominated. I think that's changing, and that is what is becoming even more attractive because it's attracting international talent, and in terms of diversity, as I said, it's very inclusive. I have found a very nice group of people here. So the environment is very friendly. Everyone is keen to support you and guide you through this through the process, and especially in this big organization, that's very important. That support that you get from your colleagues, and I can tell you that that's one of the things that I'm very pleased that I found here. It's a great team, great people, diversity.
That sounds fantastic. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about what your typical day looks like in trade finance? What would you be doing? Are you engaging with clients? Are you nose into a spreadsheet? What's your kind of day look like?
So I can tell you from an underwriting perspective, as someone in my team, what they will do on a daily basis. So my business operates, I think that the majority of the business operates through brokers. So it's not only, so brokers are an important part of the insurance ecosystems. They are basically, I see them as an extension of the sales force, and they are and they have the direct contact with the clients that are looking for insurance, and they understand what is the appetite of AIG or other insurance carriers, so they present the opportunities in that way. So basically, my team on a daily basis are receiving inquiries from brokers. They once they receive the inquiry, they assess the information that has been provided. That includes financial statements, general information, high-level information about the underlying risk that they are expecting to get covered for. And if it's attractive, they go through the different type of committees that we have internally. That could be credit committee. Pricing is discussed as well. It needs to meet certain criteria. And once the internal approval, and legal also is an important part, because legal documentation is reviewed on a daily basis as well. Not only the policies, but also the underlying agreement of the transaction that we are covering. So legal is an important part of the team. So once they assess that, and if it's a positive outcome, if it's attractive for us, they go back to the broker and they communicate our offer. And if it is attractive for the client, then the policy is binding. That's a very simplified way of describing what we do, but also we operate also on two business lines within trade finance. The other one is a structured trade finance type of solutions, which basically are portfolio large programs, normally using a securitization style of solutions as well, in which companies or sellers that are looking to securitize their receivables on their securitization are looking for credit enhancement. So credit insurance, again, is a tool that is used in capital market to enhance the credit quality of that portfolio of receivables. So the rating that is assigned to this is enhanced thanks to this credit enhancement achieved through the credit insurance. So that's a different type of business. That's less, I think that's more analytical. It takes more time to execute, but it's also a very important part of what we do as well here within trade finance.
And penultimate question, is your personal favorite of working in finance be? Is it that it mirrors the real economy? Is it the day-to-day work? What really kind of gets you excited about your job?
Well, what gets really excited about my job is I like to work with people. I think that's one of the things that I like the most. I really enjoy working with my team, and the different stakeholders, but also managing client relationship. I think that's one of the things that I really like. It's like try to keep that balance between you need to solve the needs of your client, but also you need to be aware of the needs of your company and what are your interests. So finding that balance, I think it's very interesting and one of the things that I like the most. But yes, I think it's, as I said at the beginning, I think networking, and I think that client relationship is also part of the networking that you build through your career. So yeah, I think clients are a very important part, are a key part of what we do, and maintaining those relationships is quite key.
Fantastic. That's great advice. Talking about advice, final question, because I know you're incredibly busy. Would you be able to give the BAs community 3 pieces of advice you wish you would have known at the start of your career?
Okay. I think you need to listen. Sometimes it's good to be quiet in meeting. Sometimes it's better to listen, learn, and then once you have something meaningful to say it. But sometimes when you finish an MBA or you finish your career, you think that you know everything, but that's not true. So that goes to my previous point of being humble. I think you need to be humble and learn how to deal with people that probably are not sharing your same interests or doesn't have your same background, or they basically, yes, I think you need to keep that balance going. Another advice is like, don't focus on only on salary. I think everyone is looking, yes, to grow, to progress in their career, and salary is a reflection of that. But you need, first of all, to find something that you love. Once you find something that you love, then basically that stop being a job and become something that you really like and you really enjoy, and things will come along with that. But don't focus just on money. I think there are many other things that you need to leverage from the from the experience that you acquire working in whatever organization you're going to work with. So yeah, I think keep that balance. Don't focus only on that. And you need to work in teams. That's very important. So yeah, you need to be a team player. That's it.
I love that. So be humble, don't just focus on the money, and be a team player. I think those are fantastic advice for this community. And I'll say that's the end of our Curious Careers interview. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend it with us today. I think you've given us fantastic things that we can move forward with, and knowledge for students and the community. Forward. Thanks for joining us.
No, thanks, David, again.
Excellent.
Bye.
Thanks, Anne.